people, how you doing? Hope you're having a fantastic damn day. Welcome back to the channel. Now, as promised, I'm going to be talking about the Coventry City back five formation, the 5-2-1-2 formation that they used for majority of last season and to start off this season, although they didn't find a lot of, joy and wins whilst using it. So obviously the manager, Mark Robbins, he decided to, shift things around, and he obviously came up with the 4-4-1-1 system. I do think, though, that later on down the line, they will revert back into a back five system at some point. Obviously, this team is constructed and designed to be a back five team. So I do think that's, maybe if results don't go their way, they'll look to try and, go back to what they know. So we will be discussing their formation, how you can use their tactics, implement them into your game, FC24. And obviously, as per always, guys, if you do enjoy videos like this, hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you are new. That would be fantastic. And, of course, hit the bell notifications. That way you will never, ever, ever miss when I upload a video, and that would be absolutely fantastic for me, for you, for everyone. So let's hop on straight into the video. Now, looking at the formation at hand, of course, the 5-2-1-2 formation, the two major changes I have made to it is I've pushed the two wing backs higher up the field. This allows them to be a bit more involved in the offensive outlets, as well as allows them to be an outlet ball when in transition. As for the two strikers, I've naturally just move their natural positioning slightly wider, and this allows them to run the channels a bit more efficiently and a bit more effectively, and it also opens up a bit more space for the attacking midfielder. So essentially it is one goalkeeper, three centre backs, two wing backs, two central midfielders, one attacking midfielder, and then of course two strikers. So guys, moving on to the tactical approach of how you should try and set up this team, and I will say this, the core values of Mark Robbins runs very strong within this team, and just because they set up with a back five or a back four structure, they'll still look to try and play the same way. So the tactical vision is still set to wing play, obviously working the ball out to those wider wing backs, as well as still having your forwards drift into those wider channels, looking to try and get on the ball as much as possible. As for the defense, it's still set to pressing after possession loss, so they will look to aggressively press high up the field, winning the ball back and then turning it over into an attacking outlets. As for the team width, it's still set to 45, but this time obviously with a back five system, you have an extra man in and around there that can obviously look to try and prevent the opposition from playing through the back line. As for the depth, it's still set to a mid-block 55, looking to not be exposed from the opposition in the game. Because you are playing a back five, it does offer an extra layer of protection with an extra man in and around the defensive half. As for the offense, the build-up player is still set to balanced. Now, I do know that with Coventry in a back five system, they tend to play that long ball a lot more, and obviously down the channels a lot more, having your strikers run onto those wider channeled balls that are hidden behind. But at the same time, they'll still look to build up quite effectively from the back, those short, slow build-up 5-yard passes, progressing the ball forward. But at the same time, they can also look to move quite quickly, play the ball quickly into those wider channels, play the ball quickly through the middle of the park, and allowing for the number 10 to try and be as aggressive as possible with his playmaking abilities. So again, a balanced approach does best incorporate all of these aspects to their game plan. As for the chance creation, it's still set to possession-based style of football. Of course, Mark Robbins, he demands that the team, look after the ball when they have it. They try and, create as many chances as possible, but at the same time, they don't try and force anything out of note, if that makes sense. As for the width, it is set to 80, a slightly wider width to the natural flow of this team, but at the same time, with this back five system, you are trying to incorporate your wing backs very much involved in the offensive outlets and trying to get them as much space as possible down either flank. At the same time as well, your forwards will also look to try and naturally drift into those wider channels, trying to either link up with the wing backs or potentially chase down those long balls hit over the top. As for the players in the box, I've set it to 7, just like with before, and then the corners and the free kicks, as per always, I've set it to 4. Okay guys, so starting off with the instructions at the back with your goalkeeper between the sticks. He's got the same set of instructions as the 4-4-1-1 system, of course being a sweeper keeper. I know you are playing a mid-block, but it is a requirement in this system for him to be able to, come off of his line, claim the ball, circulate it back into play. He is also very effective with the ball at his feet, so you want to try and implement that style of play with him. And then, of course, saving on crosses is set to balance, just like with before. As for your three centre-backs, there's no major changes that I think are required to their instructions, so therefore I think they should be set to their base set of instructions. Onto your wing-backs, however, they are set to join the attack and overlap, as well as step up. Now, you want them to obviously flood down either flank, providing themselves as an outlet ball for the offense, but at the same time, I have noticed that because you are playing three centre-backs, there is quite a nice layer of protection for them. So they can afford to be a bit more aggressive, breaking the structure in those wider areas of the field and getting nice and close to their opponents, whether it's the wing-back, the winger, the full-back, they'll obviously look to try and get very close to them, be very aggressive, and also try and look to win the ball back very effectively. Into your midfield now, we've got the likes of Esseles. I think that's how you pronounce his name. God damn. Anyway, but you've got him as well as Sheaf. So he is said to be a bit more of the box-to-box player, getting forward a bit more, being a bit more involved in the attacking outlet, but at the same time, he can drop a bit deeper and help out the likes of Sheaf, especially when it comes to building out from the back. That's very, very important with the system to be effective. As for the support on crosses, just like with Sheaf, he will be told to stay on the edge of the box, looking to rotate play, work it more specifically into those wider channels for your wingbacks or potentially your strikers to try and get on the ball. As for the interceptions for him, he's going to use that work rate that he has quite effectively and be very aggressive and imposing towards the opposition. For the defensive positioning, I've told him to cover the wing. Now you'll essentially need this, especially if your wingbacks aren't back in time. You need them to shift your central midfielders. You need them to shift into those wider channels and try and pick up the runners if required. As for the positioning freedom onto the offensive side of things, you want both Sheaf and Esseles to potentially pop up in those little half spaces. Now, this is very effective when playing a possession-based brand of football, because that way they'll always look to try and pop up in the spaces and show for the ball, provide a passing option for their teammates. As you will see here for Sheaf, he is told to stay back while attacking, so he'll have a bit more of a defensive role in the system, even though both of them are two central midfielders, supposed to be box-to-box players, but for Sheaf, you want him to more or less stay back while attacking and provide a nice layer of protection for the back 5/back 3 in certain moments. But just like with the likes of Esseles, he is told to also stay on the edge of the box looking to rotate play. But for his interceptions, I've set it to normal, creating a nice, calm, composing man in the midfield that won't always look to try and be too aggressive and step out of position. You've got one player doing that, you don't need both of them obviously doing the same thing. Cover the wing as well, and then of course free roam. Onto your number 10, of course, Palmer. Obviously it's a rotated position in this side, but we've gone with Palmer. So he is set to a basic defensive support, so he can choose to drop a bit deeper, helping out the other midfielders, or potentially hang up the field and be an outlet ball for the counter-attack, potentially. The support on crosses, however, look, the number 10 does get into the box a fair amount, but I've found that with if you tell them to obviously get into the box, they don't, supply that creative role on the edge of the box at times. They always look to try and make those runs into the box. So I think a more balanced approach allows you to have the best of both worlds, allows you to have that creative player just in and around the attacking third, and it also allows you to have that attacking player that does get into the box at the same time. The positioning freedom is set to free roam, and this obviously helps with the possession-based style of football. They will always look to try and show for the ball in and around that final third as well. And then the interceptions is set to aggressive, obviously trying to implement that very aggressive counter-pressing system that Mark Robins and Coventry City have done so well with. Onto your forward line, we've got the likes of Wright or potentially Jokeres. This was the position that he played last season. But for the support runs, I've set to a balanced width. So obviously drifting into those wider channels if required, or potentially having a bit more of a central role trying to attack those balls when fired into the box. The support runs are set to mix. Now, potentially with the long ball approach, you want your forwards making those runs in behind. But at the same time, because you are playing a possession-based style of football, you can't always have them doing that because then they don't show for the ball. They don't link up very effectively. So I think for Wright specifically, you want him to be able to make those runs in behind, but at the same time, maybe be a target man, maybe be a false nine in certain moments. The interceptions are set to aggressive, and then he will be told to stay forward. He is going to be the furthest forward more times than not, being the outlet ball more times than not. As for the likes of Sims, or it could be Goddins, or whoever you would like on the right-hand side, so he will be a bit more of that physical number 9. Of course, Sims is more of a physical player compared to Wright, but again, also set to a balanced width, so sometimes drifting into those wider right channels, linking up a bit more with the wing-back, and obviously drawing players out of position, or potentially having the role of staying a bit more central and being very involved in the box. As for the attacking runs, a bit more of a target man, like I said, very physical. You want him to be very imposing, backing into the opposition, linking up play a bit more with the midfield, or potentially linking up with the other striker. As for the interceptions, just like with before, it is set to aggressive. And then finally, the defensive support is set to basic, allowing him to drop a bit deeper in certain moments, or potentially hang up the field for the counter-attack. So yes, people, that is what I would do for a Mark Robins back 5 system, of course, the 5-2-1-2. If you have enjoyed this, please smash that like button down below, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you guys tomorrow.